Hello you, welcome to the channel. Today we're diving into something that's been winding me up, quite possibly the worst Tesla Model Y review I've ever seen. Now don't get me wrong, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but when a review gets basic facts wrong, skips over massive real world benefits and seems determined to nitpick a car that's absolutely crushing it globally, well somebody's got to call it out. Turns out it's me. Here's Vicky Butler-Henderson's review of the new Tesla Model Y.
Tesla's Model Y once ruled the EV world, but with so many newcomers, is its rule finally over?
Sorry to interrupt already, but no, the Model Y is absolutely crushing it globally in 2025 and will be dominating in 2026. It's still the world's best-selling EV by a huge margin. Plenty of rivals out there, sure, but none of them offer fully autonomous operation in multiple countries and growing. Do you think we'll hear much about Tesla's FSD party trick later? Don't hold your breath.
It might look a bit like a diplodocus, but it is fractionally more aerodynamic than before, and that slipperiness helps with those extra miles.
The Model Y looks like a diplodocus. What? I'm trying very hard not to make jokes about prehistoric design tastes here.
It now shares more of a similarity at the front to the Tesla Cybertruck with its sharp nose and light bar. But it's still not dynamic enough for you to stop and stare in awe if you saw it in the car park, despite it looking its best when you're close to it.
Okay, totally subjective, fair enough. I'd say it looks elegant and minimalist over the unnecessary mess of today's car designs. Share your views in the comments. Oh, actually, from this angle, I'm getting hints of Velociraptor, definitely some sort of late Cretaceous theropod.
There's a new bumper to help parking.
What?
There's a new bumper to help parking.
Yeah, I thought you said that. Do you mean bumper camera, so you and the car can see objects immediately in front of it? I think so.
Inside surely is the last word in uncluttered, so much so that you would think that there wasn't much to talk about. You'd be wrong. There's just the one lonely stalk for the indicators. And as it's the only one, you'd hope it would be the most ergonomic one you've ever used with the most satisfying click in the world. Far from it. You might think that that isn't very important, but it forms one of the few connections that you have got with the car, so it should be amazing.
A, it is ergonomic and feels nice to use after 8 months of living with it. B, what a load of nonsense. Would you rather an Audi Q3 UX's monstrosity with all the complexity of an aeroplane cockpit? Well, maybe if you still use a flip phone and enjoy a multitude of knobs. And C, it forms one of the few connections with the car. Well, as does the seats, the steering wheel, the pedals, the refinement. Looks to me that someone is clutching at straws trying to find complaint.
But let's move on.
Please do.
There's no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto connectivity, so you'd better have all your login details and passwords handy for all the apps.
I did that once when I bought my first Tesla 6 years ago. When I picked up my new one, it transferred every one of my settings across to it, so not quite the hassle suggested.
But once you have done this, the system works well, apart from selecting the radio stations on the move. And if you actually want to drive somewhere, then the screen is called upon as well. But you don't have to use that because you could use this. Blue sky thinking at its best.
No, these buttons are only there for emergency backup so as to ensure the car remains drivable and meets redundancy requirements if by very rare chance the screen should fail. However, as I found out, you no longer need to select gears as Teslas use their cameras to determine which direction of travel you want to go in. You can perform a 3-point turn without touching the screen at all. Surely that's going to be mentioned.
Back to the screen. And when it comes to selecting reverse, you slide down. But with most automatic physical gear sticks, you move it forwards to select reverse and backwards to select drive.
Is that true? Who made that counterintuitive decision for automatic cars? Surely you'd expect to choose going forward with moving a gear selector forward and going backwards. If that's the case, I'm certainly pleased that Tesla broke that stupid rule and used some forward thinking.
And after about 500 miles, the Tesla's way of doing it still doesn't come naturally to me.
The elephant in the room here, or should I say Diplodocus, is that obsolescence is coming for that gear selector and indicator stalks and steering wheel and pedals If you stumbled over this video wondering why this Tesla fanboy is highlighting the inconsistencies, and as we'll get to in a moment, the factually incorrect statements shared in this Model Y review video, it's because I know what's coming to the entire car industry. Not only the electrification of all vehicles over time, but autonomy. This is already happening in the USA, where I regularly chat to Tesla owners who no longer operate their cars. Just sit back and let it do the heavy lifting. If I hadn't have experienced that myself in a Cybertruck last year, perhaps I wouldn't understand the tsunami to come to the auto industry with FSD vehicles. Any Tesla you buy today, wherever you are in the world, will be capable of fully autonomous driving. Regulation is slowing things down in certain countries, but other more progressive tech-embracing countries are marching ahead with this life-saving technology. And there's the real bee in my bonnet over this video, talking nonsense over the ergonomics of an indicator stalk, when weighed up against its class-leading safety features for the occupants and other road users, is like telling people to avoid the real medicine cabinet and go straight to your local witch doctor instead. In the end, these minor gripes about stalks and buttons are just the last grasps of a driving era that is already on its way out. Autonomy isn't coming. For millions, it's already here.
Then there's the new storage arrangement. Wonderfully big, but they are so big that most things will get lost or roll around in there, which forces you to buy aftermarket shelves to make them more usable.
Yes, I totally agree. Tesla should include storage trays. See, not all negative.
Ahead of you is a wraparound light bar with all the colour options, but it is best to turn it off when you're driving at night because it can be a little distracting.
Personally, I've never found that to be the case because just like the screen, the internal mood lighting automatically dims when it's dark. The wraparound lights are thoughtfully designed to sit under a lip on the dashboard so as not to reflect in the windscreen. I've never once thought that the light interferes at night time.
The front seats have been redesigned for more comfort and suit a fuller frame, and they now have hot and cold air running through them.
A fuller frame, delicately put. There used to be a descriptive word for that one.
With around 300 horsepower and being electric, performance in a straight line is brisk enough for most conditions. 0 to 62 happens in 5.9 seconds. But if you want more, then the performance version will do that in 3.5 seconds.
Not to be pedantic, but 0 to 60 is 5.6 seconds. Not sure why 62 mile an hour is the quoted number here, and it's 3.3 seconds for the performance.
Top speed is 125, but don't forget, the faster you go, the more electricity you use, so that range drops severely.
Oh, just like every car. Mostly down to aerodynamic drag once over 60 mile an hour, with efficiency dropping rapidly beyond that.
The regenerative braking system has been updated and it is commendably smooth when you take your foot off the throttle. Now, that is in reduced deceleration mode. When you pop it into standard mode, then it becomes a bit more aggressive. It will bring you to a total stop though, so it makes it like a one pedal braking system. I prefer mine just, a little bit more gentle.
One pedal driving does make driving more gentle and controlled though. It always comes to a smooth stop. You never really need to use the brakes, a benefit which allows cars like Richard Simmons' Model 3 here to travel 230,000 miles with minimal brake pad wear. Worth getting used to one pedal driving, do you think?
This car's handling is at its peak through a series of sweeping long bends or on the motorway. But as soon as you start doing tighter turns, then the car's rhythm gets upset, primarily because of the overly sharp steering. And that doesn't matter whichever steering weight you've got, so you can get it lightweight, standard weight or heavyweight, and these actually work really quickly and really well. I like mine in its heaviest setting, but it doesn't matter which you choose, the steering is quite sharp.
Ask any Tesla driver if they enjoy the precise handling of their car, rather than the opposite, which I guess would be vague steering, loose or floppy steering. And I think I know the answer. At least the incredible suspension and ride comfort can't be ignored. After all, every review about the new Tesla Model Y, and believe me, I've seen a lot, has been gushing about the superb comfort and ride.
It's also a little stiffer than before, with redesigned suspension geometry and damping tech from the Model 3. but it's still on the brittle side over potholes and the like around town.
Brittle? I'm going to have to double check something. Brittle. Hard but liable to break easily. Oh, it does mean what I thought it did. This makes no sense on any car review level. I predominantly drive around country lanes, and the last descriptive word I could possibly use for the new Model Y, the same one I drive, is brittle. Don't take my word for it, watch any other review from around the world. Or better still, test drive one and feel for yourself. It's a bizarre choice of words there.
There is absolutely nothing ahead of me. There's no dial, there's no head-up display, just the road, which is lovely. But I quite like to know what speed I'm going, for example. And then I have to look left. Everything I need is here in this screen. And I think that is a massive annoyance.
Whether eyeballs glance down a touch, or to quite literally the top left of the steering wheel where those big numbers constantly sit showing your speed, it's no bother whatsoever. Coming from minis before buying a Tesla, I don't remember the outrage over a central speedometer stretching all the way back to the original Mini. How did they cope with such enormous eye movements?
Filling this car up at a supercharging station is as easy as going to a normal petrol station, but it just takes a bit longer. It's also a little bit cheaper than other public chargers by about 30 to 40%.
Oh, it's just 30 to 40% cheaper. Hang on, that's a good saving, isn't it? Would you like 30 to 40% off your food shop, car insurance or mortgage? Just wait until Vicky shares the news about being able to fill up an electric car from home for around 90% less cost than filling up with petrol. Oh yes, join Octopus Energy with the link in the description to get on an overnight tariff to fill up your car super cheaply, and we'll split 100 quid. Ta very much.
So a complete charge of this car will cost you around 30 to 40 pounds on a supercharger.
Up to £40 to fill up. Most Tesla superchargers in the UK are 39 pence per kilowatt hour. The car tested has a 60 kilowatt hour usable battery, meaning a full charge from empty to full would be £23.40, not £40. No mention whatsoever that anyone with a driveway can fill it up as I've done for the past 6 years at 7 pence per kilowatt hour. That's just £4.20 to travel 300 miles. How is this money-saving hack not being gleefully shared with Vicky's audience? Is it that she doesn't want to upset the petrol-head viewers by admitting an EV can be over 10 times cheaper to run than an internal combustion engine car? Or is it that she has ties to the auto industry, therefore the fossil fuel industry, that would sooner we all stayed addicted to buying petrol? Just speculation, of course, but after this review, I'm just scratching my head wondering why so many of the benefits of going electric, let alone to a Tesla, are suspiciously omitted.
If you've got 15 minutes to spare and you're running a little low, you can add 150 miles to the tank, which used to be good until Mercedes-Benz launched its latest CLA, which can add 200 miles in 10 minutes. Woohoo! At last, the electric pit stop race is on.
You neglected to mention that the new Mercedes CLA can only rapid charge on 800 volt chargers, of which there are barely any in the UK. Current models can't use the far more numerous 400 volt rapid chargers at all, due to the lack of built-in DC to DC converter. A step-down converter will become an optional extra from spring 2026 orders, allowing charging on 400 volt stations, but at a reduced speed of around 100 kilowatts. Painfully slow compared to some Teslas that can hit 250 kilowatts. Don't forget, Mercedes haven't bothered building their own global supercharging network, have they? Tesla superchargers in the UK are completely incompatible without the converter, so no access to the most ubiquitous network yet. Worse still, if future CLA drivers want to use that extensive Tesla network, they'll have to pay extra for the converter option. Utterly ridiculous, both from Mercedes and the undermining of Tesla's charging capabilities in this review.
This car is more refined with a more premium cabin than before, but there is something about it that is a bit like a domestic appliance on wheels. It's lacking desirability and passion, and they are two things that I really need from a car.
That's right, the world's best-selling electric car, and even just best-selling car at times, is just a domestic appliance, lacking in desirability and passion. I would love to hear what car she would recommend over the Model Y to her own family and friends. Which expensive gas-guzzling, prehistorically manually controlled, unbrittle, button-heavy, stalk-satisfying car might that be?
That said, there is no denying that this car is still a force to be reckoned with.
Look, there were positives in this review. Link in the description if you want to watch the full video. And do read the comments, by the way. However, I own this car. I know it well. I know how much it costs to fill. I know how incredible the ride and handle it is. I know how seamless and easy it is to live with thanks to Tesla's class-leading software, over-the-air updates and soon-to-be FSD technology. I can't watch a video review like this one without calling out the many, many ridiculous statements and deliberate ignorance towards a car that is recognised as a class leader in the industry. But enough of what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm Will, this is the Tesla Jigsaw. Thank you patrons, thanks for watching. Bye for now.